Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about an interesting topic called power ceiling and why I believe power ceiling is being utilized by Zenless Zone Zero devs to keep the game more balanced. If you don't know what power ceiling is, effectively power ceiling is a system that limits how strong a singular character is. So for example, in our game of Zenless Zone Zero, Miyabi is our strongest DPS, and anything that came after Miyabi, such as for example Evelyn, she's not on the same level as Miyabi, but she can get close to her. For example, you have perfect play, the right characters and so on. But what makes power ceiling, in my opinion, very good for this game, most importantly, is the game balance. Because by having a balanced game, it will ensure that you will get to play all characters, including your favorite characters. Because in these type of gacha games, such as Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin, HSR, and even Wuthering Waves, the games are designed to be more focused on the characters themselves, their design, animations, story, and so on. And we as players can get attached to these characters. It always sucks if they get phased out of the endgame content where you can no longer use them and stuff. So if you have a power ceiling mechanism within your game, you can keep playing your favorite characters, which is a very nice thing. Of course, not all gacha games utilize power ceiling, specifically more traditional older gacha games where they just have very fast rampant power creep, and it kind of works for them simply because they push so many new characters very quickly. And also in those type of games, they generally release the same character but different variation of it. So for example, in Dragon Ball gacha games, your Vegetas, Gokus, you're gonna have so many versions of them, so you might like the character, but you're not gonna necessarily be attached to a specific unit like you would be in HSR, ZZZ, Genshin, and Wuthering Waves. Also, I would like to let you know that a lot of you guys who watch me are not subscribed. If you like to support this small channel, feel free to subscribe. It's completely free of charge. Smile. Now let's continue with the video. So basically what power ceiling offers is having a balanced game. No longer you would have rampant power creep with every character being stronger than the last. There would be an actual set limit. This is the strongest character in the game, and we balance it up to that limit, keep it in check. However, this type of system does put more pressure on developers because then they have to keep cooking characters with unique mechanics, utility, gimmicks, and stuff like that. So you have a reason to pull them. And of course, the characters can be likable by us by their design, how they're being presented in the story, personality, and so on as well, which are more reasons how they can sell you a character and not just like, oh, this has a lot of power, right? Of course, power can be a big selling factor, but we had plenty of examples, for example, in Genshin Impact, where they were able to sell characters that were newer characters, that is, that were not necessarily much stronger than the previous characters, but people still kept buying them because what they liked from those characters, such as their unique designs, mechanics, and so on. Of course, if you still want to, let's say, brute force content, you would just pull the power ceiling character, for example, Miyabi, and you will still be able to brute force content with her. However, by having this type of power ceiling within the game, it does offer you ability to still keep clearing the content with other characters just as well. So for example, you can keep using your Billys and all that stuff, Corins as well, Antons, so you can keep doing endgame content and keep using your favorite characters, that is. Also, this type of system does offer the ability to effectively, you get to play what you want, what you like. So it gives you more options what you can play with, and also does encourage more team synergy, because your favorite characters will obviously need to be played within a team so you can tackle the endgame content and be able to do it just fine. Also, what I like about power ceiling is that effectively you no longer feel pressured of constantly having to pull the latest, newest, strongest characters to have an easy time or keep up with the content, because you can just keep doing it regardless with your favorite characters. Of course, it can get harder over time and you might want to get like some new better, stronger synergies for your favorite characters to make them even smoother to play. But nevertheless, I believe this type of system, if this is what ZZ devs are going for, would keep the game in a relatively healthy state. Of course, there are also some arguments against this, especially back in the day in Genshin. I believe it was like the first 2 years of the game. You had people who were complaining about, oh, we're very bored, it's very stale, the meta is very stale, it doesn't feel like it's moving forward as much or at all, because characters were often released as a side grade or around similar power level as previous characters. But personally, I believe that power ceiling, if done right, by having characters that have unique gameplay, gimmicks, designs, and so on, can make it perfectly work fine and keep the game not being boring. It is true that it does put more pressure on the devs to keep cooking characters being like very intricate and interesting, but if done right, this can work very well. I personally predict that the power ceiling in itself, if they decide to keep it, will get bumped up a bit over time. For example, we got the Miyabi power ceiling, and then in 2.0, the anniversary unit, that will probably be stronger than Miyabi and will increase the power ceiling. However, the devs also entertained the idea of buffing, upgrading old characters, not just numerical stuff, but also their gameplay kits to work better with newer character synergies and so on. So if this is done right, we can have a very nice balanced game, very fun stuff. We have a lot of options, because some of us perhaps want to get this type of strong units such as Miyabi and, for example, let's say the anniversary unit, just to brute force the content, but you also have the option to play other stuff, your favorites, and still keep clearing the end game content. Of course, you will still have very likely ease of use with this power ceiling type of unit such as Miyabi to clear the content compared to some other characters, but just having the ability to do so, if you want to do so, is there, and I think that's very nice to have. I personally believe that ZZ devs are very capable, and they could potentially keep cooking with this power ceiling type of system, perhaps with some gradual increases over time, such as for anniversary units or once a year or something like that. Also believe that this type of system can work very well for Zenless Zone Zero, simply because it is an action-based game with skill expression. So I would say it is doable, and you can push characters for people to buy through other means and not just being, oh, it's stronger than the previous one, because we have seen that work in Genshin in the past. Plenty of people bought several characters that were not necessarily stronger than the previous characters, but they bought them because they like their playstyle, gameplay, and so on. So let me know in your comments your thoughts about power ceiling. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? What do you like to see within Zenless Zone Zero? If you have any ideas or anything you would like to add yourself, feel free to write it within the comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and all that stuff. Smile. And yeah, I guess this is it for this video. I wish you a wonderful day and see you in the next video. Ciao.